However, what we're seeing a lot of times with what people are calling agentic is pretty much it's sounding a lot of times like automations, or now anything that's an automation or even a classical computer program or anything using any sort of a model is now being relabeled agentic. And regardless of, some of these are actually really great ideas that I think could be great productivity answers and good things in business, but I'm calling foul to let's be a little bit closer on what is agentic and what's not agentic, and that none of that's good or bad, but let's call it what it is, because right now the term agentic means absolutely nothing.
This episode is brought to you by Greenskies Analytics, an audit analytics service provider that works with internal audit departments that have data analysts and are still frustrated with trying to make analytics actually work, aren't getting the expected ROI, who can't break through the communication barrier between the analysts and the audit team, and those that need experienced direction for an audit analytics strategy and process. Those that feel like they've wasted time and money on trainings, aren't getting the value they want, not prioritizing the highest risk areas for the organizations, or have projects that seemingly never get completed. Do you deal with any of that? If you do, go to the show notes of this episode and click the Greenskies Analytics link, or go to greenskiesanalytics.com to schedule a call and understand how Greenskies Analytics makes analytics actually work for internal audit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Audit Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Russell, and today on the show, we have Andrew Clark. Andrew's the co-founder and CTO of Monitaur. Monitaur is for your ML and AI governance needs, and so that is obviously a hot topic for everyone. So if that is an issue at your organization, you talk to somebody, Andrew's fantastic. One of the reasons I absolutely love having Andrew on the show and even just kind of shooting the breeze with him outside the show is Andrew was also the principal machine learning auditor at Capital One until he was like a legit auditor like us. He was in internal audit and really just kind of fell in love with all this and kind of took it to the next level when he co-founded Monitaur about 6 years ago. And of course, like most of us, he is a classical trumpet player. I don't even know if we should mention that because we all are. But a couple of sources I wanted to point you out to before we jump into kind of topics at hand. A lot of this conversation came from the podcast that Andrew and his team host called The AI Fundamentalist. And so the specific episode was called Agentic AI, Here We Go Again. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I bet I know where they're going with this. And so I listened, and for the most part, they did. But it is really good. It's a good episode. It's 30-ish minutes. You can skip around, obviously, as you want, based on the sections that kind of make the most sense for what you want to listen to. But it's a really solid listen. I would highly recommend it right after this one or before to give some additional context. But even then, if you want to, they also published an article shortly after called Top 5 Governance Considerations for Agentic AI. Would definitely read this, brush up on it a little bit. You're likely going to start hearing more and more about agentic AI. So in internal audit, we don't necessarily need to be AI or agentic AI experts, but we do need to be able to be conversational around this topic with our stakeholders, with management, the board, all those fine folks. And so at a minimum, in addition to listening to this episode, I would highly recommend checking out the blog that I just mentioned. And then the third resource that I mentioned during the podcast is this YouTube video called Deep Dive into LLMs like ChatGPT. It is 3.5 hours long. I don't expect hardly anyone to watch that, but it is very, very good. I took a look back and I would say just the first 20 minutes, if you just watch the first 20 minutes of that video, you'll get a very good understanding of how these things work. And for all the magic that is LLMs, you'll go, oh, that's all it's really doing. Andrew hits on it. We hit it on it a little bit. All it's doing is predicting the next word. And if some of you are going, well, what do you mean that's all it's doing? Again, watch the first 20 minutes and it'll explain it. Really good. Does not go into a lot of deep technical details. They're sprinkled in, but like whatever, close your eyes, meditate for 15 seconds during those and then move on. You'll be fine. But it is very, very good. And it's I think more entertaining than anything. It's super interesting. Highly recommend it. As you might have guessed, based on the title and the intro, we largely are talking agentic AI. Is it real? How real is it? Is it more of a marketing thing? Are there use cases that make sense? What use cases make sense for internal audit? What use cases should your organization consider, and how to go about those? We also talk about AGI, largely just to get predictions on that. I think I mentioned it in the show also. It's like, it doesn't really matter what our prediction is. It's just kind of fun to talk about, and everybody has one. So that's kind of how we tee up the show. But that's it. It's largely agentic AI, some governance considerations, a few examples of real world agentic AI. And as Andrew points out with his very, very good analogy with GPS, the concepts around agentic AI have been around, been implemented for a very long time. So it does kind of beg the question, is this just marketing spin? I will answer that question. Listen to the episode to get both of our opinions on that. And with that said, here we go. All right. So, do you have any go-to maybe like prompts or AI use cases, if I could say it that way, or anything that you're like, I use